Hello, fellow targeted individuals. I want to talk about prosecutorial discretion because after the Epstein case, we've seen that Pam Bondi stated they had the files, they were going to be prosecuting people, but there were no arrests. So within our system, fellow TIs, we have a deep state apparatus. And this deep state apparatus has figured out ways to bypass Congress, the Constitution, even U.S. laws. And there are contractors which have figured out ways to use cops. They know how to use veterans. They can come into a community and access local veteran groups, women's empowerment groups, minority businesses, hordes of school teachers, literally any Joe Blow that wants to make a buck. And the people that are being confronted with this information about you may start sharing information about you which is false. And these perpetrators love to go to elderly veterans tied to like VFW, American Legion, because they would never be suspected of doing something like this to somebody. Most of these people are upstanding people. But anytime you have a large group of people that are being shared information and they're being told you're a threat, they're being offered money, it can lead to a targeting frenzy. And you'll notice a lot of these people will feel bad about what they're doing, but they see it as a way to support their organization. They don't want to turn down these contracts because then they can lose out on money. In turn, these veterans will sometimes inform police. They'll brief the police chief, maybe a city mayor, a few local cops. Sometimes cops and police chiefs are actually members in some communities. So these acts are kept secret. So you can live in a community 10, 20, 15 years and you're wondering, why are you being followed around by a guy wearing a VFW hat? Or why are you having an encounter at a gas station in Destin, Florida or Pensacola, Florida, and you're driving to Chicago to a family reunion, and the same guy that filled up at a gas station in Pensacola, Florida, where you left from, is in Chicago at the same hotel you're at. I've seen stuff like that. And then when you drive back the whole way to Florida, the person shows up passing by your house when you arrive. Real creepy stuff. So in these people's minds, since they're under immunity and since they're being given a government contract, they feel like that what they're doing is ethical. Now, there are some extreme cases where the deep state shadow government does what it wants, and when the county and attorney or state attorney are informed, they freak out and they're like, oh, we can't get involved in that. That's a civil matter. It's a federal matter. So Americans are assuming that when they're being bullied and mobbed, that if they go to cops, cops are going to help them. And cops will say your matter is civil. So this was occurring in every state, being harassed by veterans and contractors. So when they told me my matter was civil, that meant that I had to investigate. I had to go to court. They weren't going to help me. So I investigated this contractor and found out that the money was coming from three other contractors, which got the money from another partner, and that money was coming from a federal entity. So it's literally impossible to catch these people unless you have some really good connections that are within the government. And at one time, I used to be a part of a men's group, and a lot of these guys were tied to the local base. Some of these guys had really good hacking skills, and they were able to help me. And I was able to look at files, and I was blown away. There were Sheriff Association members recruited in some communities, police chiefs, a variety of cops, and they would be told to go into a dental appointment and say that I'm a pedophile. They'd be told to go into a residential neighborhood and say I'm a terrorist. or a thief in a store. They may make phone calls and tell the place, look, make sure this guy's food is cold. And they would reach out to business partners that were members. So I could drive literally 8 hours and be targeted upon arrival to Fort Lauderdale through a DHS information sharing portal with hotels at a 5-star hotel. And then I could be harassed while going to a casino to celebrate my birthday, maybe spend $50 playing slot machines, not harming anybody. So what the enemy does is they'll use Jewish people, elderly people, they'll use African American people, predominantly ex-army with some psychological warfare training. They'll use Mexicans as a cover, and women. And what they do is they drive around to different communities sometimes and just harass people. Like in this area, it's mostly veterans. And some would come from Estes and Tavares, Florida, mostly ex-Marines. Then the ones that were very clandestine were coming from the Tampa, Florida area, or Orlando, or Fort Lauderdale. And they would switch cars. They would do very bizarre stuff in a very systematic and routine fashion. And it appears that these activities are meant to wear out the target psychologically. So it's done to chronically stress the target out so the target doesn't enjoy taking walks. They're harassed where they buy food in supermarkets. And the people they use are sometimes not ex-military, but most of the time they are somebody that has a secret clearance. They could be a Hindu family from an IT company doing classified work, a university office of community engagement, or a university business group where they're doing classified activities. And this funding that they're being given could go to a group that has 10,000 members. And there are groups like that here in Florida where they have 10,000, 8,000, 15,000 employees. They may work on aerospace stuff. They may have a few people go out in the community and do stuff and earn extra money for the company. And it's all classified. The only way you would figure out who these people are is if you had a team of people working with you. So this requires police to be willing to do sting operations on these groups. But that goes contrary to their movement based on the whole community-based approach movement. You have DOD giving surplus supplies to police departments. Then you have DHS, the Homeland Security Network, giving money to communities. And they work with the federal agencies. The people that are on list are sometimes being written off by agencies which share information with DHS. So this makes it where police can't do nothing, the county attorney can't do nothing, the state attorney can't do nothing, Congress can't do nothing. So essentially, your rights are voided. So you could go to a hotel and be harassed, an airport be harassed, when you land get harassed, and they will even operate out of some embassies. So this is not occurring towards anybody that I know that has ties to terrorists or foreign governments, that uses drugs, looks at child porn. This is occurring to people that have no ties to scumbags. They're not doing anything criminal. But in some cases, they're exposing. And when you're exposing, what you're doing is you're standing up and saying, look, I'm not this person these people are saying I am. In every single state I've gone to, city meetings, I've talked to Congress, senators, I've been like, look, how can you guys help me? I'm moving state by state. I'm being harassed by veterans. I'm being harassed by business owners. I'm being harassed by women. I'm being harassed by ex-Army, LGBT, transgender, diversity, and inclusion partners. People with Antifa shirts hanging out with these guys driving cars with no tags and black suits and thin black ties with VIN numbers coming back to a government vendor in Virginia. And when people see this stuff, LTIs, it infuriates them and they want to say you're a liar. Yesterday, I posted some stuff in a national security group, and I have no ties to the government. I just shared different posts to see what people would say. And a few of these people started putting up posts like, we have AI programs where we can pretty much destroy your life. Another one put a generated image where it showed a guy that looked Hispanic, kind of like me, and it says cartel member wanted. Just kind of like little subtle hints like, hey, if you keep talking, we can do something, generate something to destroy your life. So when you look at what targeting is about, it's about generating things to destroy a person's life versus treating you like a human being. They want to run illegal operations, which they know are linked to mass shootings in our schools and in our communities. And then they go behind the system's back saying, oh, we're going after a threat. But when you look at the video footage, you see people utilizing psychological warfare strategies, using veterans that are very gullible, don't even know what's going on. So they're harassing you while the whole time the real players, the real puppet masters, are laughing their butts off, knowing they're using people as a patsy. So essentially, targeted individuals' rights are voided within the United States because if the cops can't help you, if your county attorney and your municipality and city workers can't figure out a way to stop this, then that means that you're not free. When you're free, you can go to Aldi's supermarket in Clermont, Florida, and you're not going to have somebody walk up to you and harass you every single week. When you're free, you can take a walk with your loved ones, your children, and you don't have to worry about being harassed by a group of veterans. When you're free, you can go overseas and you don't have to worry about dealing with some scumbags harassing you on the 15th floor of a 5-star hotel in Ho Chi Minh City, or the same thing in Cartagena, Colombia. If you're being followed and harassed, and these people clearly see that you don't get phone calls, you don't hang out with terrorists, if they're monitoring your phone and harassing you upon arrival to places for 5 years or 7 years in Florida, 5 years in Texas, 25 years in Northwest Florida, and they haven't figured you out, then they're either really stupid or really evil. Think about it, TIs. You got people going around harassing families, knocking on the back doors of restaurants, asking employees to whistle in your face in multiple states, asking women to do this and kids, harassing people in libraries and then hours later where they eat. These are not operations based on counterterrorism. If you believe that, you're a fool. And one of their pet peeves is parking next to you. When I first dealt with InfoGuard, that was their pet peeve. And not only would they park next to me, they would harass me in places and then even slander me. And did you know that slander is not considered a crime? It's a tort. And if you don't have a body camera on, it's your word against theirs. So if you leave the country, go to countries where slander is considered a crime. You might want to go to China, Russia. I don't know about Nicaragua if their laws are like that. Here, you can be slandered by a contractor, and that contractor may hire a local veteran. And that veteran that lives on your street, that goes to the VFW, and that has a child daycare center there, could repeat this information to kids and their family. And then before you know it, you have a good old boy group with good intentions, thinking they're running out of undesirable. And the person is now being targeted by bubbas in the community, believing that you're a pedophile and a terrorist without any evidence, without even knowing your name. That's serious, fellow TIs. And one of the things I've noticed in multiple states with like the FBI in Texas, what they would do was they would position themselves to be up ahead where I was about to pass by. And they would do it at lights. They would do it in doctor's office lobbies and stores, and they would harass me inside of stores, kind of like the Citizens Corps programs that work with like sheriff's associations and sheriff's departments. For 5 years, they harassed me. The entire time I was going to the city, the state governor, some disabled guy in a wheelchair, probably a Freemason and a Jewish guy. None of them would help me. And I was harassed by Jewish people the entire time in Northwest Florida. When I investigated, nobody would listen. So when I moved here to Florida, I started getting harassed by Jews. I started getting harassed at gas stations, at parks where I walked, where I worshiped, and I wasn't able to enjoy my life. It's not that I'm pessimistic or a depressed person. my reality was being created by an external source, which was interfering in my life. So while I was walking, they'd be harassing me. So when I look at that specific place that I wanted to walk at close to my house, I didn't want to walk there because I started associating that place with harassment. So I would drive to Tavares, Florida, to Hidden Waters Preserve. They came out there with a group of ex-Marines, and I started experiencing life-threatening stuff, so I went further away. So what the enemy does is they continually harass, continually annoy, and they create a situation where the target is seeking help. They're going to cops, they're going to the municipality, they're doing records requests with the Fusion Center, different federal agencies, trying to figure out what's going on and how they can stop this problem, and they're not helped. So what happens in some cases is that the target goes out and buys a gun because the target has exhausted all resources. They've gone to the FBI, the NSA, DHS, the county attorney, the state attorney. They've gone to the police. They've gone to the sheriff's department. They've talked to human rights groups, reporters. And now they're continually being harassed. So what the enemy does is they're continually outsourcing to many different people to bypass stalking laws and harassment laws. And the people doing these minor skits, in their mind, they're thinking, surely nobody would harm me. So what they do is they bring their kids or a young lady as a cover, and there could be a deputy from a sheriff's association and all over on standby because they know that you're being harassed for years. And they know that these activities are linked to mass shootings and violence. They know that if that was to occur to them and their family for years, state by state, in schools and classrooms overseas, when they're eating food in a bathroom, while they're even taking a dump, while waiting for their car to be fixed, they know that could cause violence. So within the United States, Philatians, the source of all terrorism goes back to national security threats, not the American people. And as our society declines, Americans are going to start figuring things out, because as this society declines, there's going to be a strong boost in more surveillance, and then we're going to have more people complaining about being targeted. And when it reaches the point where people become more vocal about it, then that's when we're going to see crazy things occur more, because when people see that there's no hope, that whatever they do to improve their life is being challenged, from building a website to creating a network to have their constitutional rights respected, it's being crushed. People are going to retaliate. In my case, I'm just going to leave. I mean, why would I want to fight for a country which won't even fight for the freedom of its own people? That'd be comparable to me joining the military. That'd be idiotic. Why would I sacrifice my life for a country which would not even make any attempt to help me to be able just to live my life? This is the way I see it. If I'm not harassing you, why harass me? If somebody's pushing the envelope and I'm pushing it back, okay, I don't want to have no problem with you. I'm not pushing it back, we're just walking away. And if somebody keeps pushing that envelope and pushing and pushing and pushing, that tells me that you're a threat to my safety, that you would risk your life to harm me. And when it reaches to that point where you've exhausted all resources, you can prove that you've been harassed thousands upon thousands of times by contractors. You can prove you've never harmed them or harassed them. In my case, I could even tell you some of their social security numbers due to breach forms. When you can prove that you've exhausted resources, the government won't help. Did you know that you can go to other governments, and these other governments, when they see that you're seeking political asylum, they're going to contact your government. Doesn't matter what you did in the past, whatever, you've changed your life on. If you're being persecuted, there are countries you can go to, and the asylum court is going to investigate and see, what did your country do to help you? When they see that no agency helped, not only are they going to find that very bizarre, But they're going to be wondering if sending you back is appropriate. They're going to want to keep you there most likely, or send you to a different country, because sending you back to a country where your rights are violated and where you're being persecuted isn't healthy and it's not humane. So a good way to see these people as fellow TIs, or like as like a cult, like a satanic cult. They'll smile in your face, but then behind the scenes they're working to destroy your life. We're dealing with essentially like the trash of the earth, fellow TIs. People just as bad as pedophiles that go around promoting mass shootings, suicides, heart attacks. These are the types of people, fellow TIs, that if they die, I don't care. I really don't. And I'm a Christian. I pray for my enemies. But when you have people that habitually rape children or habitually torture people, and they don't stop for many, many years, it has to reach a point where it's like, Lord, get rid of my enemies. I'm turning to you, get rid of my enemies. And don't be surprised if 8 years later you hear about one of these guys going postal. I've documented multiple cases where people have gone crazy. They lost a loved one, their organs shut down, they got food poisoning or brain hemorrhage, or one guy attacked his wife with a machete, just went crazy out of the blue. It's a veteran, perfectly healthy, and one day just went crazy. Another cop became an active shooter in Austin, Texas. Another one got blasted away outside of his house by a burglar. In this community, it's a town next to it. Lady was a city commissioner. Her and her husband got killed by a burglar too. Evil attracts evil, fellow TIs. And you can be a good person and smile, be like, oh, I'm a good guy, I'm working with the network. And you watch what happens to some of these people. Sometimes I look to see how some of them died. I do research, all the so-and-so had a stroke or died of this or that. And when you look back and you see what they did, it's like karma. God is showing you karma. So align yourself with positive forces. You can be in a negative situation, but still be positive. You could be working on your degree, working on learning Russian, Chinese, maybe dating a woman overseas, looking at ways to improve your life, learning about selling, golf, anything that gives you joy, because the enemy works to destroy your joy, your passions for life. If it's 5:30 in the afternoon and you just finished having dinner and you're walking with family, and then all of a sudden you're being harassed in downtown Claremont, Florida, now that's not normal. If you have family visiting you and you go to the Tiki Bar in Mineola, Florida, and you have people coming in there with military outfits harassing you, and they harassed you at the school earlier, that's not normal. These are coordinated harassment campaigns where these people can reach out to partners really fast and try to bully you and make you feel uncomfortable in your environment. They're going to facilitate a lot of mass shootings. We're dealing with the trash of the earth, fellow TIs. I'm talking about scum so low. I don't know why we haven't deported it out there to like one of these countries which goes around like just mass murdering people. Like what's this group called? IDF. Yeah, I guess the IDF, Israel's government, just harming people. They need a new leader. So terrorism, violence, all this stuff, fellow TIs, coming from this gang stalking movement, goes back to the source of terrorism that seeks to capitalize, lie, steal, and even condition people to believe a certain way that they're worthy of this. So they promote learned helplessness by utilizing no-touch torture strategies. These types of movements can't be stopped by protesting, because pure evil only understands sheer power, sheer force. You would have to do things outside of the law to stop this. And you can't do that legally, and I don't encourage that. You'd have to like access classified files. You'd have to literally put aside your life and access their files and prove that they're doing this. And even if you were able to prove they were doing this, that they were facilitating attacks, promoting terrorism and violence, Department of Justice would conceal it as a matter of national security unless it was put out there where it could be covered up. Due to public outcry, they'd be screwed and then they would have to prosecute, or if they couldn't prosecute because these people are under immunity, it would lead to a lot of legal problems. So when you look at how these people spend many years plotting terrorist attacks on our homeland, it's no wonder they can get away with this due to their ability to promote narrative control. I am not anti-law enforcement. I'm not anti-government. I'm just letting you guys see this highly racist movement that most people don't see. And when you start standing up, not with violence, but by confronting people, it makes people wonder, like, hey, am I crossing the line? Am I being lied to? And when you see these people doing this when you're with your family, that's when you know that they're sick. That they not only have a vendetta against you, but they are sick. And these people wear black suits. They wear thin black ties. They drive black SUVs, and they hang out around Langley, Virginia. And they have facilities all across the United States. They've been doing operations, illegal operations and spying the entire time without even DOJ oversight, the entire time. For decades, we thought, oh, they needed permission. Oh, bullshit. They've been doing operations through the Rotary clubs. They've been doing different groups. And most of these people are good people. My situation is rare. There are many targets all across this nation, but there's not too many people in Lake County, Florida, or in Tampa that are experiencing what I'm experiencing to this degree. When you start getting harassed at doctor's offices and you get denied medical treatment due to people coming in wearing suits, it makes you wonder, what did they say? And when you start seeing this place after place, it makes you wonder. And one of the serious aspects of this movement is that it impacts your health. It's very common to meet targets that have 14 different medications. And it's very common for them to leave the United States and a month later not need one pill. And the reason why is because stress kills you. I know targets that have skin issues over this, stress hives, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, eczema, alopecia areata, bone issues, heart issues, sleep apnea, breathing issues, hyperventilation syndrome, anxiety, PTSD. I mean, the list goes on and on. And then when these people leave, they're like, oh my God, I can breathe fresh air. I can eat a meal without being harassed by a Jew or a Gentile. I can, I can date, I can rent, I can breathe here. I'm happy here. And they don't want you to be happy. A lot of them are highly racist. They have some type of perverted bullshit going on. I don't know if it's involved in radical feminism, but they better keep this shit away from me with their perversion bullshit. Coming my way like they're trying to exert power over me and fucking with me systematically. And I've been quiet about this most of my life and being humble because I always thought that if I showed respect towards the government, I shouldn't say the government, the clandestine, that they would back off. And just 2 weeks ago, I was at a place and I was confronted while having a drink with my family and I was harassed. And this guy wore a black suit, thin black tie and black shades. And I'm thinking, it's kind of late at night dressed like that. At the same, not so much the dress, the way he was dressed, but the glasses and everything. It just seems a little intimidating. And I've seen people wear black shades in places, but the way I was confronted and what was done close to my face was very evident that this person was trying to get my attention and was trying to provoke a violent response. And they'll come with elderly people. They'll order the same drinks. And if you go outside, they'll go outside and sit right next to you. And then when you leave, they leave. Or if you walk back in, they'll walk back in. Just mess with you, hoping you'll say something, hoping you'll bring attention to them by telling a relative what's going on. Now they're wondering, what are you up to? So this is done to destroy families. They want you to go to cops because if you go to cops, now what's going to happen is you're most likely going to receive more attention. And since they're partners, they're going to lie and say, he's crazy. And then you'll be flagged in the community in some cases. So this is all designed to wear you down mentally. A while back, I read an article about a case in the UK where somebody had an issue with somebody and they never reacted with violence. It was a verbal disagreement and they were put on a violent registry. Well, this registry was sent to all like STD clinics for checkups, dental clinics, banks, hotels, hospitals, stores, and it had pictures of people. So they were essentially being flagged in the community. Now, why would any country do something like that? Well, it was found out that the person was never violent. Somebody in a position of trust was abusing that to have somebody flagged as a threat to destroy their lives. And anybody that was on that list was secretly being harassed, being mistreated. So versus being helped, what they did was they created a registry so that way people would be mistreated in hopes of them reacting in a violent manner. So essentially they could have been creating the violent people versus promoting peace and inclusion. They sought to capitalize off of this registry because the majority of people are not violent. There are people on the streets that you could be driving on a road and you could get in front of a car 80 feet away from it and a person could get road rage. So you cut them off when you didn't. And they may have a clean record but snap because they had a bad day. So it's really hard to say if somebody's violent or not. Now, any person which is being harassed has the potential to react in a violent manner. I've been in this since 1996, and I've never reacted with violence. I've only dealt with people that promote violence in our schools and in our classrooms. And if you were to see the footage going back in classrooms more than half of my life, you'd be blown away. Because it shows that I've dealt with the same group in every state. I've dealt with the CIA, I've dealt with the FBI, DHS, the same groups. And a matter of fact, the NSA, CIA, and DHS haven't even responded back to my Privacy Act request, which makes me wonder, is there some type of secret movement with like the Army? 'Cause in the past I dealt with them, with DHS and all these other groups. It appears so. And I'm not saying they're all doing this, but I know with the clandestine, I definitely have dealt with them. And I just find it bizarre because, I mean, I don't get phone calls. I don't harass nobody. So why would somebody need to do this to me? Now, I get phone calls, but I'm not like a person that's receiving phone calls like every day or every hour of the day. It's typically family or a few people, but none of these people do anything illegal, and I'm not using a VPN, so anybody from a federal agency can hear my phone calls.